Hi, this is Wiz. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm driving the brand new Q5 TFSIe. We're not gonna really review the exterior because it's been out since a few years. I'm talking about the Audi Q5, but we're gonna put the focus more on the hybrid setup. Let's get this done. So today I've got the opportunity, thanks to Amag Crissier in Lausanne here in Switzerland, to drive the brand new Audi Q5 TFSIe. This is the plug-in hybrid solution from Audi. You got two versions of this Q5 TFSIe. You got the 50 that has a maximum power of 299 horsepower, and this one, which is the 55 with a max power of 367. On the exterior, nothing diversifies this Q5 hybrid from any other Q5 with the S-Line package. Still no visible exhaust. I wouldn't call these fake exhausts because to me, they look more like fake air vents. But still, you have a very small diffuser and the real exhausts are underneath. And more generally, the Q5 looks very dynamic, very sporty. This one has small, we can call them small wheels, 19-inch. You can have it with 20 and even 21. And moving on the front, this one has a very strange configuration because, as you can see, the front grille is blacked out, but it still has the chrome frame around the windows. We can say it's a hybrid solution. Looking at the engine bay, we have the petrol engine, which is the 2 liters 4 cylinders with 252 horsepower and 370 newton meters of torque. This is actually the exact same engine I had on my Audi A4 TFSI a couple of years ago. It was in 2016. I have made plenty of videos about it if you want to check them. And together with the petrol engine, there is the electric motor, maximum peak power of 147 horsepower. So total horsepower of this car is 367. Wait a minute, it doesn't add up. 252 horsepower plus 147 doesn't make 367. But, as I said before, the 147 is the maximum peak power. So the combined power, realistic combined power, is 367 horsepower and 500 newton meters of torque. And this is enough to push this car to over 240 kilometers an hour and make the 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in just 5.3 seconds. As I said before, the most important part of this car, especially when reviewing this car, is the driving. How does it behave and how does this setup works? It is funny how the official name of the Q5 hybrid is TFSIe, but on the virtual cockpit and the other screen beside, it is named Q5 e-tron. I honestly prefer e-tron to TFSIe. The virtual cockpit in its old-fashioned style, meaning that this is not the very last generation we find in the A6, A7, Q7, Q8. So it's still the, let's say, old one. A little different is here you got this dial where you can see how the power is used, and then here the small one is the regular RPM one. Another difference being this an hybrid car, you got some more informations in the virtual cockpit. So if you want to see the consumption, the long-term consumption, we can see that this specific model has 6.8 liters per 100 kilometers when we talk about the fuel, and 11.6 kilowatt hour when we talk about the battery. And this is what I've done. So I've got the car yesterday and I drove for almost 1 hour combined with a fuel consumption of 8.8 liters per 100 kilometers and a battery consumption of 4.6 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. And then we get the instant consumption. And this is the screen I prefer, and this is the one I'm using when I drive the car. You see here the range talking about the petrol engine and the range for the battery, for the electric engine. When you are in full EV mode, you have this little EV logo here, and you can only see your range, electric range over here. All the magic is done through this EV button. Here you can select the 3 different e-tron modes. First one, EV, it's fully electric. So you got a range, estimated WLTP range of 53 kilometers. Let's say that in real life you get more, something like 45. I'm actually having 22 kilometers only, as I used already the battery this morning. Then the second choice is the hybrid one, which means that you use both the petrol and the electric engine. And then finally, the third mode is called battery hold. This is an interesting one because it allows you to only use the petrol engine with its 252 horsepower and keep the battery charged. So let's say that you are driving in the morning on the freeway. You don't necessarily need to have the electric power, but then later that day you're gonna drive on a town and you wanna use the electric side of the car. So this mode allows you to do that. You see that when we select either the hybrid mode or the battery hold mode, then you get the combined range here. You have the petrol range and the electric range. So right now I have left 332 kilometers of range, which is split by 310 for the petrol engine and 22 kilometers for the electric one. The other difference compared to the regular thermic Q5 is on the settings. You get here the visualization of your car, and I really like to have this screen when I drive because, as we're gonna see a little bit later, you can really have an idea of how the car is behaving when you are driving. Are you using the petrol engine? Are you using more the electric engine? Are you regenerating the batteries? So it gives you an instant idea about how the car is behaving. And then you got some more menus, and you have some specific menus about the electric side of this car. So here you can set up when you want the car to start charging, and then here you have some statistics. And then you get the usual settings. Charging the electric motor will take around 2.5 hours at a speed of 7.4 kilowatt. Note that you cannot charge faster. Whatever charging solution you choose, it's gonna always be limited to 7.4 kilowatt, and it's gonna always takes around 2.5 hours. If you charge with a normal domestic plug, then it's gonna take 6 to 7 hours. To recharge the 14.1 kilowatt hours battery, you have another cap here with a Type 2 plug. This button is to stop the charging or to start the charging, and this one is to set up whenever you want the car to start charging. Let's say that you have a specific rate at night. You can set up by pressing this button or into the MMI at what time you want to start charging the car. On the other side of the car, you have the conventional fuel cap. Together with the Q5 TFSIe comes the charging solution. So you are greeted with this very big thing and heavy thing over here that you need to carry with you if you want to have a charging solutions on the go. So here you have the charger and a few adapter. Now we're gonna drive the car on the normal roads, and we're gonna try to do some freeway and see how this hybrid Audi Q5 behaves. So let's drive this Q5 TFSIe and see how it operates, how the two engines works combined. So I'm actually in battery hold, meaning that I'm actually using only the thermal engine, the petrol engine, 2 liters, 252 horsepower. This engine is quite good and it's quite agile. It has a very good response, so you really don't feel the weight of the car. Don't forget that this car has the 14.1 kilowatt batteries on the back, just underneath the cargo area. So it's quite heavy, but still, I'm actually running only using the petrol engine. I'm at 60 kilometers an hour now. I floor it. 80. Wow. I have nothing to say against this engine on this car. So now we're gonna move in hybrid, meaning that now, from now on, the car will decide according to the situation, the surroundings, and also the traffic, as I'm gonna explain in a few minutes. The car is gonna decide whether it's gonna use the electric motor or the petrol engine. And here on the screen you can see what the car is actually doing. Like right now I'm running only on electric. If I accelerate, then you can see with the orange stripes that I'm using also the petrol engine. And now that I brake, I'm regenerating the battery. So I'm using now the regen braking of the Q5. When the Q5 uses the two engines, it is really quick. Let's not forget this car has 367 horsepower and 500 Newton meters of torque. The funny thing how the regen brake works, it's very different than the Tesla I drive. On the Tesla, when you release the throttle, it's gonna start braking, and then you can modulate with the throttle with your feet. You can modulate how you want the car to brake. On the Q5 TFSIe, it actually, the car decides itself when it wants to apply the regen braking. It can seem a little bit weird, but it is actually very clever, because the car is gonna sense the traffic in front of you. For example, if there's a car in front of you, I can feel that my Q5 start braking. And then it's up to you if you want to brake a little bit more, if you want to tailgate the car and accelerate. But you can clearly feel that the car starts to brake, and then it regenerates the battery. And then also, if you have a destination in the navigator, according to the road you are actually driving, the car will see where it could apply the regen braking. This is very clever. So unlike the e-tron SUV, you are not using the paddle shifter on the steering wheel to apply some regenerative braking on the car. It is done automatically. So I had to stop because there's traffic in front of me, and now the car is going in fully electric. You hear nothing. Now the petrol engine kicked, and it's almost unnoticeable. You don't hear anything when the petrol engine comes into life. It is done in a very seamless way. And then of course, when you need some power, if you floor it, then you got the two engine coming to life. And again, this car is quite quick. What I like, as I said before, you can constantly see here on the central screen how the two engines are working together. I was in dynamic. Now if I move to comfort mode, then the car becomes even quieter. Everything becomes smoother, the direction, the air suspensions. Forgot to mention this car has the air suspensions. So now I'm not sure if you can see it here on the screen. As I'm not applying any force to the throttle, the car is regenerating the battery. So basically now I'm coasting, and at the same time I'm charging the battery. And as you can see, despite driving the car for a few kilometers, the electric range hasn't moved. It is still to 23 kilometers. So we're gonna go back on the same road, but downhill this time. There's no one behind me, so we're gonna try to do a 0 to 80. I cannot do a 0 to 100 for obvious reasons. So let's stop the car completely. I'm on hybrid. Let's go. Wow, I'm really impressed by the performance of this hybrid solution in the Q5. Again, keep in mind this car is quite heavy, but still the reaction is really good. Wow. And despite the added weight of the batteries, the handling of the Q5 is really not bad. This is not, of course, a sports car, and keep in mind also it's an SUV, so don't expect this car to behave like a lower sports car, but still the overall package is quite good. So now we're gonna move on EV only, meaning that we're gonna use only the electric motor. So the electric motor can do 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 14 seconds. So this is really not stellar, but this is not the purpose of this motor in this configuration. So the electric motor is more to help and give some added power whenever you need it, and to lower the fuel consumption. When you start the car, you are always on EV mode only, and you have to change here. So I'm now on EV. We're gonna go on EV. You can drive EV only for the range you get available, and you can go up to 130 kilometers an hour. Of course, if you are in EV mode and you kick down, the thermal engine kicks in. So let's try to go all electric now. So now the car is behaving like a fully electric vehicle. Driving at normal speed conditions, you can really do, let's say, home to work commute in fully electric only. And you hear that typical electric motor noise that I like a lot on my Tesla, and I'm happy to find it here. And the reaction when you drive in electric mode only is quite good. The motor is quite snappy. As you can see, I'm driving at the normal speeds here and I have no issues whatsoever. Of course, the range is going down. It sucks your battery when you drive in electric only. But again, this mode, let's say that you have a daily commute of, I don't know, less than 30 kilometers, then you can do it in full electric mode. And I like the battery hold mode because this is very convenient if you are driving a lot on the freeway where you don't necessarily need to have the electric power, but then you know that later that day you're gonna drive in a town, then you can save your battery for later that day. I like to play with the modes depending on how you are driving and where you are driving. So I would say that now I'm getting in town. Maybe I could use the hybrid mode, so the car would always have the right reaction. But also, if you are in a battery hold, is gonna regen the battery whenever you brake. So I start in electric. Now I'm regenerating the batteries. Now even more because I'm applying some force to the brake. The same engine is found on the A7 and on the A6. You also have the Q7 and the A8 hybrid TFSIe, but in those two cases it's the petrol engine is a 6 cylinders for a combined power of more than 400 horsepower. I wish they could have this engine here, and actually I am wondering, considering that I had the same petrol engine on my A4 a couple of years ago and I did a stage 1 with Apt, so I went from 252 horsepower to 302. The question is, could we do the same with this setup? Meaning, could we imagine having a stage 1 on the petrol engine, go up to 302 horsepower, and then with the addition of the electric motor having up to 400 horsepower? That would be dream. I love this engine setup, but I'm more interested on having this into the A7. As I said on almost every video I do, I'm not really big SUV kind of person, but you may know that I like the A7 a lot. And honestly speaking, the A7 TFSIe is on my shopping list for my potential new car. I'm just waiting to know the price, because pricing is still not available here in Switzerland as I speak to you. But if it's not that expensive, it may be a very wonderful solution for me, considering that I use my car for business purposes, for visiting customers. Then I would have a car that can have the electric side of it. I like that a lot today with my Tesla. A car that is powerful enough, and a car that is a very low fuel consumption. So I would say, instead of saying is the best of both worlds, I would say is the best of three worlds. So you got the electric side, you got the petrol engine, and you got an Audi. In town, being in hybrid mode, the car will almost always be only electric, only EV mode. I still have a range of 22 kilometers, so it's more than enough to hang in town for the day, let's say. So now I'm driving emissions free. I'm not using any fuel, I'm not doing any noise, and I got a car that is quite reactive. So plenty enough power for driving around city. That wasn't me. We're approaching a tunnel now. Why do I even say that? I don't care, we don't have exhaust. We don't have any sound. But still, let's slow down. Nobody behind me. And now full power. Wow. The power is more than enough. And now let's do the same, but with the car in dynamic. So let's slow down. And now let's go. I've nothing to say against this hybrid setup. It works very well. It's very fast, very responsive. I can't wait to see this engine into the A7. That would be heaven. That's a sports car. No, not really. But the acceleration is really impressive. I'm impressed about that. I don't think you would do a lot of compromises if you buy this car. And keep in mind that 367 horsepower is the exact same amount of power that the RS3 pre-facelift with the 5 cylinders 2.5 liters had. So it's not nothing, it's quite a reasonable amount of power. Wow, I like it. I like this car. I should buy this Q5 hybrid. TFSIe, e-tron, whatever. So we are now driving on the freeway, and I have to say that the ride is very comfortable, very silent. You barely hear the two engines, the petrol engine and the electric motor. And if you don't look at the graphics, you may not know which one is actually working, because the interaction between the two is so seamless that you don't hear the moment when the petrol engine steps in. I'm now on battery old, so I'm gonna change that and go on hybrid. I only have 3 kilometers left on electric mode, but it's still enough to show you how this car can react quickly. So now the car is braking itself. I'm not doing anything. There's no cruise control activated, nothing. But the car senses that there is another car in front and is applying a gentle braking. like now. I'm not doing anything, so the car is going down in speed. I'm at 80 now. You don't have the feeling that the car is not moving, that you have a slow car. You do actually have a very fast car. We're gonna call it a day and end this review here. I think I hope I showed you enough of the Q5 hybrid TFSIe. I personally like this car a lot. Again, I can't wait to see this hybrid setup into the A7. That would be one of my favorite cars with one of my favorite engine combo. What do you think about this hybrid solution that Audi have put in place? Let me know in the comments down below. Thanks for watching this video. Please follow me on Instagram, Wiz1972, if you want to know the latest news about Wiz. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and activate the notification bell so you won't miss a thing. I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.